All right, picture this. A 14-year-old in the passenger seat on a car ride home. She just finished a tournament, clubs are in the trunk, hat is still on, and she's staring out the window. And before she gets her seatbelt clicked in, the question then comes from the parent. What happened on hole 7? See, I want to tell you about a junior golfer that I once worked with. Talented kid, loved the game and loved the way that kids love things before anyone tells them that they should be better at it. One of her parents started showing up to rounds with a clipboard, tracking every shot and every miss, every decision that was made. Every round became a debrief, and every car ride home became like a review session of the day. And one day she stopped wanting to play. The joy of golf was sucked out of her. I've been there, not only as the child, but also as the parent. Maybe not a clipboard in my hand, but I definitely been there with my words. I'm Dr. Matt. This is Mind Your Game. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the most underrated coaching moment in junior golf. It's not the lesson on the tee, not on the driving range or the short game range. It's the car ride home. Here's something I've learned the hard way. The first 5 minutes after a competitive round is not a coaching moment for parents. They are moments of connection. And we treat this entire system backwards on the way we relate to our kids. See, your child just walked off the course where they've kept their own score. They've called penalties on themselves, or, they managed their own nerves for 4.5 hours with no substitution, no timeouts, no calling in, coach, take me out. I need a substitute. Golf is honestly one of the loneliest sports a child can play. And the first voice that they hear when it ends teaches them how to talk to themselves for the rest of their life. Now, I want you to think about that. The first voice that they hear after a round teaches them how to talk to themselves for the rest of their life. The inner voice that your child learns and develops standing over a putt that matters, or maybe standing in an eventual job interview, or maybe with a hard decision, that inner voice gets built and reinforced over time. A lot of it gets built in the car ride home, in the first 5 minutes after a round. I will be the first to admit that I got this wrong. And I teach this stuff. I got it wrong for a long time. I really thought I was helping. Really, honestly, my intention was to help. I thought analyzing and unpacking and reflecting was reflection and love. I thought if I did not point out the mistakes, then who would? But I was not building a better golfer or a better athlete. I was building a kid who flinched every time the round ended, dreaded the car ride home. Now, as a sports psychologist, I'm going to bring in some psychology here because this is where it gets really practical. Dr. Kristin Neff, many of us have heard of her work on self-compassion. She's a researcher and a professor in psychology who studied self-compassion. Now, her work shows that how we treat ourselves after failure matters more than the failure itself. I always say in our Built to Bounce Back seminar, mistakes are inevitable, but recovery is trainable. Athletes who beat themselves up after mistakes, they do not perform any better. In fact, they actually perform worse because they develop this harsh inner critic, this voice that does not build you up and sharpen you. It actually shrinks you. And there are studies on that. Prolonged inner critical voice equals lessened self-confidence, self-esteem, self-improvement. Now, here's the part that I really want to communicate to every parent listening. Kids do not invent that inner voice. They inherit it. It comes from somewhere. The way you respond to a double bogey, not only the voice, but the nonverbal language that you communicate becomes the way that they respond to that double bogey in the future. If you go silent and you get tense, or you roll your eyes and you lift up your hands, they learn that mistakes are shameful or, causes disappointment. If you lead with the scorecard and the performance outcome, they're going to learn that their worth is tied to their score. Now, there's also research on praise and affirmation. When we praise outcomes, when we praise the score, the win, the trophy, inevitably, we're also raising anxiety because outcomes are not fully within a child's control or any of our control. Deep down, kids know that. But when we praise process, the effort, the bouncing back, the routine, the decision-making, the attitude, the recovery after a bad hole, we're building something that lasts. Now, when we start to praise effort and attitude, we're building a kid who can fail and come back, a kid who can become resilient. I often coach parents at the end of the round. Rather than saying or asking, did you play well today? Maybe we can reframe the question and ask, in what ways were you proud of yourself? Now, let me back up before the round, because we set the trap really early on, even before the competitive round begins. So just play with me here. You drop off your kid and you say, with all the love in your heart, I think you're going to win today. I think you're going to play great. You mean it as confidence. The intention is there. You want to encourage them. You mean it as belief in yourself. But here's what's actually happening when you say this, when you reinforce outcome. You just handed them an expectation they now have to meet or can potentially fail from. Research on junior golfers is really clear on this principle. When parents raise expectations before a round, pressure and anxiety and tension within that child increases. When a parent says, I think you're going to win, that doesn't feel like support to an anxious or nervous kid who's already worried about the competitive round coming up. It feels more like a burden, a weight, because there is an expectation that has been unconsciously laid out. So flip it, right? Before the round, instead of predicting the outcome or a result, point at the process. Tell them, go commit to every shot. I love watching you compete. Have fun out there and stick to your routine. You're directing them and aiming them at the things that they can control instead of the things that they can't. I always say, you can have high expectations. People say, don't have expectations when you play. But I'm a firm believer, have high expectations in your process and the things that you can actually control, but not expectations on your outcome or results. Having expectations on outcome or results is a lose-lose situation. Either you meet that expectation and you're relieved, or you don't meet it. I'm going to give you something that you can actually use. And this is directed to parents of junior golfers or junior athletes. Next time after the round, try this. Here are 3 things to say after the round, especially the first 5 to 10 minutes in the car ride home. 1, I loved watching you play today. Now stop. Pause. There's no clause, no but, not I love watching you play, but you need to really work on your short game. Just the first half of that. See, this separates love, worth, feeling enough from performance. And that separation is really everything for a child. Be a parent, not a coach, especially in the car ride home. Number 2, what are you proud of out there? What were you proud of out there? This hands the round back to them. It teaches them to find the good without you assigning it. They're digging, you're helping them dig, rather than you digging for them. And it builds the habit of self-evaluation that does not start with a self-attack. They might not be ready to have that conversation yet in the first 5 to 10 minutes on the car ride home, and that's fine. But that question is there for you to use. Number 3, I'm here when you want to talk about it. This gives kids and children permission, not pressure. Some kids want to process right away. Some need hours. Some need ice cream or food before they have a willingness or a want, a desire to talk. Some kids may not want to talk about it at all. And we as parents have to accept that. Essentially, what you're telling them, this permission, is that the door's open and they get to choose when to walk through it. Now, the one question I often get as a sports psychologist working with parents and junior golfers is this: what should I ask? And I often go back to, what did you learn today? not what was your score, more about what you learned. This turns a bad round into useful information instead of like a judgment or a critic, right? It tells your kid that the round, no matter how good or bad it was, is data. It's not a judgment or a reflection of their identity. And when your kid, let's say, is frustrated and gets in the car, already having a meltdown, right? They're angry, they're in tears. You don't need a lecture. You don't need to pull out any great words or encouragement. You just need to understand that both of you need a reset. And this is a framing I often come back to. Recognize what they're feeling and help them name it out loud. Man, that looked really frustrating. You're not fixing it. You're just validating and seeing that. Ease the pressure, right? Take the analysis or the reviewing and reflecting off the table for now. That lesson can wait. Connect. Name the emotion. Just be there. Your calm is contagious. So is your tension. Your tension is contagious as well. So if you're wound up, you're anxious, you don't know what to say, they're going to feel it. They're going to stay wound up. Encourage the effort, not the result. Man, you hung in there today on the back nine. That took courage. That took guts. Talk later, not now. You see, the teaching moment is real, but it's not in the parking lot or the car ride home. It might be tomorrow. It might be on the range. It's definitely when the emotion has settled. Maybe after ice cream. I'm going to take a chance right now to go a little bit deeper because this right here is much bigger than golf. Somewhere along the way, it gets easy to love the performance, easy to love the result instead of the child. I'm guilty of this. We don't mean to, right? As parents, we're doing everything we can to support the child. But your child can feel the difference when this happens. They feel your mood they feel your mood kind of rise and falls with performance and score. They learn to read your face and nonverbal language on the 18th green before they look at their own scorecard. They're watching. And at MPGA, we often say things are more caught than taught. And we believe that your child's worth was settled long before they ever picked up a club. Your child's worth is not earned on ranking or the leaderboard. And it's not lost in a missed putt or a missed cut. Your child is fully, completely loved and enough on their worst day of golf or their best. And if that is true, if you firmly believe this, then the car ride home is not a performance review. It's really a chance to remind them who they are when the scoring stops. Golf is going to give your kid 1,000 bad days. That's just part of the game. This game is so hard. What they need from you is not a lesson or a swing fix. It's a place to land. It's a place to be themselves and feeling loved and enough no matter what. So I'm going to challenge you, parents of junior athletes, junior golfers, this week, keep this in mind. Before the next round ends, decide what your kid is going to hear in the first 5 minutes on the car ride home. Not in your head in the moment. I want you to decide and plan for it now. What does your child hear from you in the first 5 minutes after a round? Sit with that one because they're listening more closely than you think. And they will carry that voice a lot longer than you think. I'm Dr. Matt, and this has been Mind Your Game. Now, if this hits home, share it with a parent who needs it. I'll see you next time.